The dirges of the dwarves. So moving. Greetings, programs. Drunkens and Dragons here with another awesome episode. How to play D&D like a big old badass. And that's all we do around here. We're about to do some more of it. We're back to the Campaign Encounters series. It's a fascinating series of episodes involving content for your D&D game. In all seriousness, this is no joke. What is the subject matter? The pale ale of the dwarves. So moving. Monday evening is a fine evening to sit and drink. So, what is going on in the campaign? Well, if you watched the last two videos, you'll remember that a great flood has swept through Westburg. Now, before anyone could even gather their wits and find out what was happening, the torrential water washed our heroes, Helm, Stills, the goblin rogue, Zeimer, the old scholarly wizard, and their newfound friend, Foxy the fox. They were all washed into a stone cataract where they discovered a strange lizard man hideout and, to Helm's surprise, discovered an ancient tomb with a statue that looked exactly like him. But there was no time to consider the oddness of this experience because they were chased by the lizardmen out of that chamber. Now, just outside the lizardmen's cavern, they emerged to the ruins of Westburg. The flood had subsided and chaos was engulfing the kitchens beneath Westburg Manor. Now, Stills was very concerned about his goblin family who are slaves and workers in Westburg Manor. So these newfound friends, with no other way to help all their fallen village mates, decided to go into the kitchens and see if they could help pick survivors out of the rubble and ruin. To their terrible surprise, in Westburg Manor, they discovered Stills' family members, as well as many other house servants, driven mad by some kind of homicidal necrotic magic, all being coordinated by necromancer overseers who were running amok, saying strange implications about an experiment in the town and the laboratory being washed clean, and daring these three new heroes to kill these necromancers just in their face, just like, go ahead, kill me, I don't care, I'll just be here again. And they're like, what does that even mean? Dead. So Zeimer, at this time, seeing the doom and ruin that befell Stills' goblin family, implied that he's been working in the manor for some time as a scholar, and that they should ascend the stairways, if they're intact, and find the master's sanctum at the top of Westburg Manor, and either search for or demand answers for this cataclysm, which now it seems the flood of Westburg was some kind of horribly orchestrated sabotage or intentional disaster by forces unknown. So, that was 2 nights of gameplay. So we were on night number 3. Now remember, no rest has occurred for the players, and these are level 1 players. So at this point, they should be sturdily worn out as far as spells, abilities. Maybe they had a couple of heal potions. They're probably low on hit points at this point. I know that Foxy the fox has got to be low on hit points. They have like 8 hit points. So this is a ragtag group. They have not had time to level up, even though they've accrued plenty of XP to hit level 2, and basically have gathered no treasure. Haven't really even had a moment's rest in this cataclysm, the destruction of Westburg. Now, when they entered Westburg Manor, the town was still standing. It had just been cleaned out by the flood, and everyone had fled the town to escape the floodwaters and are hiding in the nearby forests, presumably. But the town has gone a little bit quiet for the moment when the players begin to ascend the stairways of Westburg Manor. The idea is always focus on your players, right? So the very first adventure, The Cavern of the Lizard Men, was really all about Helmet, or Helm, whatever we call him, and about how he had some strange role in the history of the land, like the ancient history of Westburg and the surrounding kingdom. Something that they don't know about, some mystery they need to solve. In the second night of adventure, we focused on Stills. We got him a little more roguey action. We used more twisting corridors and confined spaces where a rogue really can shine, and got to see the terrible fates that befell his different family members, and he got to really feel the gravitas of being central to the story. So for our third night of play, we need to, once again, stick to our principles and focus on Zeimer, our old scholar wizard, whose battle cry is, "I'm old!" A proclamation of the legitimacy of the geriatric population, but also a statement of pure courage. So, how are we going to build a night of gameplay that focuses around a wizard? Well, there's a couple of ways. One, put a wizardly theme on things. If you're trying to find an ancient library, a set of scrolls, a summoning circle, an alchemist's table, any kind of this fundamental just theme content is going to make the wizard feel more central to the story. Second tip, how to make your wizard the center of the story. Provide obstacles and encounters that either by mechanical enforcement or by sheer intimidation seem impossible to overcome without the use of clever spells and planning. A lot of times you'll have a high int character doing that kind of interaction with the others to drive the play forward. So what you do is present encounters for your wizard that seem like, man, the only way out for this is going to be a well-timed fireball. Thus, we come around a turn in the staircase here and come to our first room of the third night of campaign encounters, which I think, did we have a name for this campaign? We should give a name to this campaign. The Doom That Came to Alfheim. There you go. So, in the third night of The Doom That Came to Alfheim, Zeimer is leading his newfound allies, an unlikely group, up the winding stairs of Westburg Manor. And Zeimer turns around and very quietly, "Shh, my friends, this next chamber is a guard room, and only those allowed into the sanctum know the secret to opening the far door. But there's no way we'll survive the guards. We need a plan." All right, so the idea here is that the 4 guards that await, indicated by these two-dimensional people, are far too powerful, especially in their beleaguered state, for the group to just jump in and start fighting. Also, Zeimer has knowledge of the layout inside the room, so he relays that to the other characters. He says, on the far wall, there is a wall of sharp iron spikes, but it is in fact a secret door. I do believe I remember how to open the door, but there's no way we'll survive the guards. To get the guards into the center of the room. After that, I'll do the rest. So, right away, Stills volunteers. Well, I'm quite a distraction. No, they'll kill you instantly. We must send Foxy. She's quick enough to avoid them. So, very carefully, Stills opens the door with a rogue dex check, makes the dex check on the room, silently opens the door and lets Foxy go in. Foxy trots into the center of the room. The guards say, "Well, what's that mangy mutt doing in here? Get him!" Cue Benny Hill music. "Squire, get over here and help us get this mangy mutt." You know, foxes have a crazy high dex, so there's no grabbing this thing. It's like chasing a chicken. So watching through the slightly open crack in the door, Zeimer sees that Foxy has succeeded. "Out of the way, Foxy," he says. "And you lot, over here, you fools. Your time has come, agents of evil." And he casts, what is it? Gale Force Winds, is that what it's called? I forgot. Windy gust, gusty gale. You know, that wind spell. So he casts the wind spell. 3 of them fail to save. They slide back almost to the spikes. Right? barely catching their feet right before the spikes. The next turn comes. Stills runs up, starts engaging this guy in battle. Helm joins him to help. Foxy is terrified on the side. Zeimer maintains the spell. Keep them away from me so I can concentrate. Sure enough, these three fail their save. All of them are skewered on the iron spikes of the far wall. The one last fighting one holds his ground. I've got him. Stills heroically jumps up on his chest, thrusts his dagger down into his hauberk, and rides him like a sled onto the spikes, Flash Gordon style. They're all killed in one fell swoop by a spell. Okay, now, could you have come in and maybe just strong-armed the encounter? Perhaps. But anytime you're going to be super worn down, outmatched, and there's a giant clear environmental helping component, that is the time for a wizard to shine. Either to deceive them, to shock them, or to blow them back, or whatever. Now it'd be even easier if he was an evocation wizard. He could spell sculpt and not blow his own buddies into the spikes. Maybe Stills had to make a dex save to jump off the guy at the last second to not be skewered himself. Maybe three of them make the save. They all come up and start attacking Zeimer, and it's up to Helm to push them back and then get into the wind and be blown with them and make the save to not get skewered. All kinds of cool things can happen. Okay, so there's your opening encounter. Zeimer walks up. He remembers there's one spike over here on the right side that you twist like a knob, and it opens, revealing a staircase within. We move to the upper sanctum of Westburg Manor. Gods of terrain, grant me this boon. There we are. The upper floor of Westburg Manor, where the master, Garret Frak, makes his lair. Another great way to make your wizard the star of your evening is to put a frickin' magical door in. You can just make it the simplest mechanism, where it is completely unopenable save by the touch of a wizard. Or you could make it, all that needs to be done is decipher the inscription on the door, which is, please open, or by the great eyeball of Garret Frak, I command this door ajar! All it does is give a wizard another chance to make an intelligence roll, or a decipher magical text roll, or a detect glyphs of warding roll, anything involving using his magical intelligence to simply say, no other character could have opened this. It teaches the wizard player that he doesn't always just have to hang out in the back and do DPS, that he actually is a key that fits some of the locks in the game. Up the group begins to follow Zeimer, and they're like, are you sure we should just be walking into the Garret Frak? So this is another great moment for a wizard, to just be able to go ahead and engage an encounter without worrying about having 5 hit points. So he can walk in, since he has history in here as a researcher for Garret Frak, he can go in and just confront the guy who's standing right here at his research table. Get this out of the way so you can see. Garret Frak, I thought you were a man of knowledge, Zeimer says. I'm old. What have you done? What abominations are you doing here? All our research materials. What are you preparing to do? And now it's time for you, as the DM, to be Garret Frak and do a little bit of voice acting your own. And it's something to the effect of,
the master is satisfied now. Copies of clones of clones. An army awaits. And you mastered the formula. Ha 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 ha. I owe you a debt of gratitude, Zeimer. You old fool.
Garret Frak steps back and casts a demonic summoning circle on this square right below him. It instantly bursts into flames, infernal flames from another dimension. He laughs.
This has only begun, you fools. I'll see you in hell. Whoop.
He jumps into the summoning circle and disappears using a demon door spell. The IPAs of the dwarves. So moving. At that moment, it dawns on Zeimer all that's come to pass as his friends enter the room. Now remember, every encounter that you do needs the 3 components. You need a timer, a treat, and a threat. Now, first of all, the timer. Garret Frak has ignited a fire. It instantly lights the table on fire, the curtains, the books, and you've got your handy-dandy gigantic fire countdown dice here. How bad is the fire? Okay, I've got 5 on my countdown dice. That means we've got 5 rounds before the fire just engulfs the entire top floor of Westburg Manor. If you roll a 1 here, you've got a very different encounter than if you roll a 6. And that's excitement that you want the players to see happen. You want them to see that a lot of their fates rested on that 1 die roll. So the flames begin engulfing the walls. Bang! You've got your timer. There's no way these guys are just going to stand around and root through stuff. The scrolls are catching on fire. The books, all of Zeimer's precious research that he's mentioning, who knows what it is catching on fire. That's your timer. What's your treat? This doesn't seem like there's a lot of treats in here, Hankerin. Man, you're kind of being a jerk to this Zeimer guy. Not at all. The treat to Zeimer is I've given him wrath. This whole time, Zeimer has been serving as a scholar in this building, right? Helping Garret Frak to do magical research. He runs over, and before a few scrolls can be ignited in the flames, looks them over. He's never seen these ones before. Strange plans of using the inner guts and blood and microcell biology of doppelgangers to create a vial of replication, which can duplicate a man cell for cell as many times as there still remains the goo, the cloning goo. As long as you have it, you can continue to clone people. Then he finds other scrolls, which are about how to make people more ravenous, more savage, more homicidal, how to make them ultimate warriors, how to make them stronger, faster. Oh my God, they are figuring out how to make an unstoppable army of murderers. This whole time, Zeimer has been helping to cause the undoing of Alfheim. Given this player a central role in perhaps the biggest story in the land, and given him the wrath of hating being involved. Everything he knew and loved was in Westburg. It's all gone now. It's all ruined. Now the ruins of the town still stand, but many were killed in the flood. And he realized he helped on a much bigger and more horrible level to build this ultimate murdering army. In the time that Zeimer takes to examine this, Stills examines this strange experimented upon corpse. Helm jumps onto the alchemy table, breaking a bunch of bottles of strange glowing fluids, and taking a look at the glowing demonic circle here on the floor. As he takes a closer look, 3 hideous demonic Sahagwin forms emerge.
We come from the watery depths to destroy you as our masters bid us.
So Helm's like, we gotta get out of here! And click off 1 round of excitement. There you go. You've got everything you need. Now they're gonna take a couple rounds to figure out what the hell they're gonna do. So we're just gonna move through it. Helm moves up on the table. He's got advantage because he's got high ground. He begins fighting the 3 demons. Stills investigates this pit over here. It looks like they've been dragging their discarded corpses over to this pit and throwing them down to God knows where. He turns around. Zeimer! I'm not sure this is a good exit. So Zeimer's like, well, the veranda is right out here. Opens up the door, goes out, looks around from the terrace, and it is, like I said, 80, 90 feet down. He's not sure what he's gonna do. I'm not sure we can jump that far. Good grief! And then Helm is taking a shot. Manages to kill one of the lesser demons. We're running out of time. Click down to 3. Now you can see pretty much the magic of the encounter is in play. Zeimer have a spell left over. Can he feather float them? Can he cantrip his way out of this? A lot of things could happen, honestly, at this point. And you want to make sure that as the DM, you're ready for a lot of things. We've got another fire right here. We've got these two banners. They could be lit on fire. They can be used as giant spears to kill the demons. Maybe you can pull the banners off their poles, tie them together and form a rope. But then Zeimer's too old. He can't climb ropes anymore, so they consider jumping down the pit, but God knows it smells like bodies down there. What are they gonna do? As you reach one turn left, and let's say that Helm is now down to the last Sahagwin demon. Whew, boy, it gets hairy. Helm is barely alive. He's like, we have to make a call. Either jump down the shaft. Let's take the stairs. He runs. Fire. The whole tower seems to be on fire now. There's no way out. What are we gonna do? We've gotta jump. But I'm not going in the dead pit. It's off the terrace with me. Hey, oh, and then Sahagwin chases. Foxy jumps in for a crazy last minute piece of heroism and bites the Sahagwin on the eyeball, giving them just the moment they needed. And Foxy takes damage. Too much damage and falls. Zeimer jumps first, barely surviving, landing far below in the debris and broken sticks and rubble of the flood. Helm doesn't notice that Foxy has fallen before he jumps. Boom. Lands unconscious but is revived by Zeimer with a bandage. Finally, it's only Stills, the last Sahagwin, and the body of Foxy. He runs forward in a feat of insane heroism, grabs the fox, and jumps from the terrace. Lands far below, also knocked unconscious. Helm picks them both up. He's only got one hit point, mind you. And they stumble off. The counter finally reaches 0. As they stumble away from Westburg Manor, the timer reaches 0. The manor is completely engulfed in flames. But as they stumble off through the flood ruin and rubble, there's a tremendous shaking in the earth. A huge pulse goes through the ground all across the village of Westburg. And as they watch in horror from a nearby hillock, Westburg Manor and 3/4 of the town itself are engulfed in a giant crack that opens in the earth, and it all disappears into nothingness. That was your night of gameplay. Now, as the players are freaking out, finishing their beers, I'm gonna have another one. A terrible, dead silence falls across the chasm that was once Westburg. The DM, these are pretty low characters. It's not like they have a whole town at their disposal and they have hirelings. And especially if they're newer players, they don't have a sense of like what's really possible, how much do they really choose things. So I would say, feel free to give them limited choices. So you remind them of knowledge they already have. The choices I would offer are the crack and chasm that devoured Westburg finds all different fissures and faults that lead to the south toward Frogwood, where all the floodwaters seem to be draining. But no one ever goes into the swamps of Frogwood. It's said that evil lives there. On the opposite side of the valley, to the due north, the berserker snow dwellers of Numidia are. The Vikings, the fighter clans, the barbarians of the north. Good hearts, but tough and tribal. But their help could be employed to battle Garret Frak and his undead army. So do we wander into Frogwood, hoping to confront Garret and his Sahagwin demons immediately, or wander to the north and employ the dubious loyalty of the Northmen, the ice wanderers, the rangers of the snowy wastelands? Now your players discuss it for a while as they cool off from their session, and they decide to go to Numidia to employ the help of the barbarians before they take on Garret Frak. So that's going to be our next session. Next session, we don't have to make one person the star anymore. So what we're going to try to do is bring the group together. And that means provide them with a golden opportunity to be heroic and help one another. Maybe they find a way to revive Foxy next round. Maybe they encounter the Numidian Northmen next session. We'll find out. But there you have it for campaign encounters. So you could do this a lot of different ways. The flood comes into the cavern of the lizard men. Discover something strange about the past. Emerge into the lower levels of the manor. Chaos is running rampant, and the poor goblins have befallen terrible fates. Something horrible is happening. The third one, a darker, magical, more confined experience for the third night, crescendoing in this crazy battle with demons and fire and all this stuff, and a narrow escape with their lives. And finally, deciding on the course of the story. You've just covered a bunch of the coolest things in D&D. You also made it through 3 sessions with no rest, and now it's time to let the players gaze out on the crater that used to be their home and sleep for a few nights, hoping to find some straggling survivors or some sign of life, and wondering what the hell just happened. That wasn't just a fire, that wasn't just a flood. The earth actually cracked open and engulfed the entire town. What kind of forces are they even meddling with here? Well, that's what we're going to find out over time. So there you go. That is part 3 of campaign encounters for The Doom That Came to Alfheim. Remember your timers, your threats, your treats. Keep it real simple and always focus in on tone. And remember, your players are your stars. Stills, Helm, and Zeimer, even Foxy the Fox. It's all about them. So next round, when we get into traveling, what makes it interesting for this group to travel? Well, they're definitely a ragtag bunch, but already I get the feeling they're starting to like one another. So we'll see where it goes. Okay, that's it for right now, you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Good to have you, and stay tuned for more campaign encounters. I'll just keep it going as long as I can while I take care of my real player group on the other side, which we're in a crazy land with that right now. In case you feel like you haven't seen my latest stuff a little bit lately, it is true. I'm holding out because I don't want to do spoilers. So as soon as we finish this 42-room dungeon that I've built for my players, we're going to get that whole thing documented here. Much more complex room structure, room design, timing design, time travel, and a lot of crazy stuff. So stay tuned to Drunkards and Dragons. It's great to have all you guys. And strength, honor, and beer. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Here's to you guys.
Beer. More beer.